Yeah, we're talking Shedeur Sanders. Is it a possibility that Miami could take the Colorado quarterback if he were to slide on draft night to the Dolphins position at number 13 overall? I actually didn't think this was going to be something I ever talked about on the channel, but I saw some people talking about on social media, and it was kind of sparked up by Joe Schad, who mentioned this and wrote an opinion article on the situation that the Dolphins must be prepared to consider Will Campbell and yes, Shedeur Sanders if they slide to number 13. Will Campbell's a no-brainer, although he is viewed as a tackle. He could easily get shifted inside to play left guard, and he would probably be my top player on the board in terms of fitting this Dolphins roster and needs because of that left guard vacancy they currently have. But the Sanders part was the one that shocked me here. Let's see what Joe said just slightly, saying that selecting Sanders with the 13th pick would put more pressure on Tua Tagovailoa, but so what? Tagovailoa is about to begin his 6th season in Miami, and so the pressure of 0 career playoff victories weighs heavily anyway. So he's kind of talking about maybe you do this to get the replacement, the heir to Tua, if Tagovailoa struggles again in 2024. 5, and I see that, right? Like, it's possible that the Dolphins want to apply pressure to Tua, considering that he has only played 17 games in 1 year of his career, and he has yet to lead Miami to a playoff victory since he was drafted inside the top 5. So I understand the idea of potentially putting pressure on him. I just don't know if I love this way of doing it, and I'll explain more in just a bit. But make sure you do subscribe because we put out daily Dolphins content, and we have one last opportunity to take the lead in our weekly sub battle. We started it earlier in the week against Jets Report. We trailed by 7 entering Sunday, the final day of the week. So hit that sub button for daily Dolphins content, but also taking down the Jets. All right, when we talk about Shedeur Sanders, and I do want to start the conversation with this, I don't think the Dolphins will even face with this possibility or this hypothetical, if you will, because to me, he's a lock to go inside the top 5. Do I think he's QB1? No, I think that belongs to Cam Ward coming out of Miami, and I think he is definitely going to go number 1 overall. But teams like Cleveland, the Giants, those guys picking at 2 and 3 may very well be in the Shedeur Sanders sweepstakes, or a team may just trade up inside the top 5 to make sure they land the Colorado quarterback, because this is a player that, although would not have probably been a top 6 or 7 QB taken in last year's draft, which is crazy to admit, but when you have a draft class like Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, yeah, like he's probably not going higher than any of those guys I just mentioned, but he is still a really good QB who has improved over his entire career. Started at Jackson State with Deion Sanders, then goes to Colorado, improves year after year. There are limitations to his game, which we'll discuss here in just a second, but he is as accurate as it comes, and when he is kept clean in the pocket, you see it. He completes 81% of his passes, doesn't turn the ball over really much at all. Like, he has 5 interceptions, but 2 turnover-worthy plays when kept clean, so that just tells you that all interceptions are not on the quarterback, and he actually is pretty solid when under pressure as well. When he's blitzed, 29.8% of the time, he's able to find his receiver, go with the football, completing 70% of his passes nearly, only 3 turnover-worthy plays. Shedeur Sanders is very good inside the pocket, and that is the type of quarterback he is. He is a pocket guy, and we know that in Mike McDaniel's system, where you are in the pocket, quick decisions, accuracy, that is something very important, and Sanders does excel at all things that would be required in a Mike McDaniel scheme. But let me ask you before I continue the conversation and inevitably give my answer, would you draft Shedeur Sanders at pick number 13 if he slid on draft night? Type Y if you would, type N for no. It's today's pinned comment. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I'm going to give you my official answer on this hypothetical if he was on the board at 13, but I still want to talk about Sanders, the quarterback, here before I give that answer, because there is good and there are bad with every prospect. We'll start with the good. We just showed you the statistics. He's very calm under pressure. When the pocket's collapsing around him, he does not crumble as other quarterbacks do. He delivers an accurate football. And when he gets blitzed, he knows where to go with the football as well. And that's one of the things that is the best part about him, is that he's accurate. He doesn't have the strongest arm, but he knows how to place the football. And that's actually more important than accuracy. Is like, can you perfectly execute a throw to where you're giving it to your wide receiver or pass catcher on their front shoulder, their back shoulder. When they're running across the field, are you throwing it to their chest where they have to slow down and catch it, or are you putting them perfectly in stride so they don't have to break beat and they can take off and beat their defenders? He's very good at that. And he has good experience starting, like I said, started 4 years as a college. But there is a bad side to Shedeur Sanders. The traits are not elite. I talked about some of those quarterbacks that went last year. To me, he's similar to the Bo Nix. His arm is really not that strong. Yes, he is mobile, but he is not crazy athletic. And there is an issue of how he would fit in the locker room. Why? Is he bigger than the team? He's got such a presence about him, and I love that because you need to have the confidence that he has to play quarterback in the National Football League. But if you did draft Shedeur Sanders, would you be willing to take the circus of him being your backup? And the conversations that would be in the local media, the national media, consistently, day in, day out, of Sanders being the backup to Tua. Not to mention you have Zach Wilson in your building as well. Those are 3 high-profile quarterbacks that I think would just cause a potential stir inside your locker room. So if you cannot tell where I'm going with this, my answer on the Shedeur Sanders dilemma. If he is available at pick number 13, some miracle, some craziness happens, and he slides down draft boards and Miami has the opportunity to take him, I am not drafting him because, one, you just have too many needs. And I talk about the potential circus that it would cause in your locker room and your quarterback room. Think about how Tua would feel. Now, maybe you don't care and you want to have him motivated to try to prove everyone wrong, but that is something. But Miami just is a team that has a lot of money spent, not a lot of cap space, at older veteran players like Jalen Ramsey, like Tyreek Hill, and they need to try to execute this little window of winning. And when you have defensive line issues, cornerback issues, you still got a left guard hole that you need to fill, and you also have safety issues as well. I like Melifanu, I like Ashton Davis, but they're not going to be a 1-2 combination. You just have so many spots on this roster that you need to fill, so using your 13th pick on a quarterback that would not contribute to winning in year 1 unless Tua got hurt doesn't seem like it would be the right use. And yeah, I know there are 10 draft picks at your disposal. One of them will be used on a quarterback, but I don't think it should be Shedeur at number 13. And we'll continue the conversation here in a second, but I do want to let you know, but you can get your Dolphins jerseys. Never too easy to represent the Dolphins, whether you want a Tua jersey, a Waddle jersey, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Ramsey, Jalen Phillips, any style, any size. Grab yours, chatsports.com/Dolphins jersey. That link is in the description and comments of today's video. Take advantage right now and grab them while you can. When you talk about drafting a QB, Chris Grier absolutely will be drafting a quarterback. I don't think there's any debate about that. But like I mentioned, it just doesn't make sense to take one that early in the draft in round 1 at pick number 13. Yeah, you have Zach Wilson as QB2. You always want a developmental guy in your system, in my opinion, and that's why I think targeting one like a Dylan Gabriel, Kyle McCord, or Quinn Ewers on round 4, round 5 is very possible for the Miami Dolphins. But we do want to talk about the actual quarterback that's on the roster right now, that being Tua. Because if you are one of those people that actually would want to draft Shedeur Sanders, well, that means you're basically giving yourselves a time clock on the Tua Tagovailoa experience in Miami. And over the last 4 seasons, since he's become a full-time starter, yeah, there's been a lot to like. There's been a lot to not like. What's not to like? Well, he can't stay on the football field, only playing in 17 games 1 season. Now, shocker, the Dolphins made the playoffs in 2023, and it was his best statistical season where he led the NFL in passing yards. You just got to trust the bounce back right now, man. That's what you have to do with Tua. And I know some fans out there aren't going to be happy with that. But you have all this money allotted at Tua Tagovailoa over the next 4 seasons. Now, you don't have to stick with them all 4 years. If he struggles, there are times in that contract you can get out of his deal. But you have this offense built around him, the quick passing game, the speed. You just got to trust him coming back. And I also have this question as well with Shedeur Sanders. I think he's a fine quarterback prospect. There are mixed reviews out there. I gave you my thoughts on him throughout this entire show. But is his ceiling really that much higher than what Tua is right now? Like, I think there's obviously a world where Shedeur Sanders is better than Tua Tagovailoa in the NFL. And I know a lot of Dolphins fans aren't even high on Tua right now as we are currently sitting. So you might answer this question very quickly and say yes. But if I am going to replace Tua and try to start to find that new future quarterback of Miami, I'm thinking bigger. I really am. Think about what you need in the AFC East. I know Miami plays in the southern part of the state, but when you play football in January, in February, when you want to be playing football, the quarterbacks that have been able to win recently have been physical. They've been players that have strong arms that can cut and throw the ball through cold conditions, tough weather. And I just don't know if Shedeur is going to be able to do that at a better level than Tua Tagovailoa by that much of a margin. I would think bigger and give Tua some time down the next couple of years. Let me know your thoughts. Confidence level in Tua next season. I know it might not be as high as people would hope it would be, but let me know your thoughts on it down in the comment section. Scale it 1 to 10. This is a big year for Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins. Tua's contract was not restructured before NFL free agency, which tells you that this Dolphins front office does not have the utmost faith in him being the guy to lead this Dolphins franchise. Because if they felt that way, they would have restructured his contract, free up $19 million in cap space to sign free agents. But they didn't because they still need to see more from Tua over the next year or two, and they don't want to lock him in to the Dolphins 2 or 3 seasons from now and have a void year where he's getting paid multi-million dollars. This is a year for Tua in 2025 where he needs to prove a lot of things. And in my opinion, when you look at the checklist for Tua Tagovailoa in 2025, the number one thing that has to happen is that he has to play in all 17 games. I mentioned it. He has only done that once in his entire NFL career. And what happened? The Dolphins won double-digit games. They made the postseason. Yeah, I know they faltered down at the end of the season and then lost to the Chiefs in the first round of the playoffs. But if Tua plays all 17 games this season, you're probably in the playoffs. He only played 11, and you were just 1 or 2 games out of missing the playoffs. So if he plays in all 17, you probably do make the postseason in 2024. And that's number 2 for Tua. He has to get Miami back to the postseason. He's got the Dolphins to the playoffs twice. He missed that playoff game against the Bills in 2022 where Skylar Thompson had to start. Almost won that game, by the way. And then obviously we just mentioned 2023. If you want Tua, and Tua wants to be the franchise quarterback in Miami, he has to play all 17 games in 2025, get Miami back to the playoffs. And if we're going to be honest, to get the fan base behind him and this organization 1,000% behind him, he has to win a playoff game. This organization has not won a postseason game for 25 years. It has been a long time coming. And for most fans out there, people don't care if they make the playoffs. Yeah, they want to see them in the postseason, but they're only going to care if they're able to compete and get a win in that playoffs. We just saw the Commanders go from top 3 pick to the NFC Championship game. I'm not saying that that has to happen next year for Miami. I would be very much appreciated if they could get to the AFC title game, but it's not required. We just need to have at least a little bit of confidence in QB1 moving forward, and he's got to prove that by playing all 17 games, being in the postseason, and getting a win. If these things don't happen, Tua is going to be on the hot seat next offseason, and you might not have Mike McDaniel as your head coach, and Chris Grier might not be your GM. And we will have you covered through it all, folks. So make sure you hit that sub button. Join the channel as we continue to put out content every single day in the offseason. And when the season rolls around in August and September, we'll be here for that too. So join now.